Oh, oh, I'm sorry. I was just at my association's annual meeting. Have you ever been to a meeting in your association where it just felt like it went on and it was never going to end? Well, in today's video, brought to you by the NAP, the National Association of Parliamentarians, we're going to talk about why your annual meetings can't afford not to have a parliamentarian. Hi, my name is Susan Leahy and I'm from RobertsRulesMadeSimple.com, and today I'm going to be talking to Tim Wynn, professional registered parliamentarian, all about why your association can't afford not to bring in a parliamentarian. All right, we have Mr. Tim Wynn on the line today. Tim, are you there?
Yes, I'm here, Susan.
Hi, Tim. Thank you so much for creating the space for us today. We're excited that you're talking to us about this really important topic, and nobody better to talk about it with respects to really the value of hiring a professional parliamentarian at your state or national convention. So let's just jump right in, and I would love to talk a little bit about, well, if I'm going to hire a parliamentarian for my state or national convention, what are the services I could expect?
Well, at the state and national level, the services are different than what one might expect at a local level, whereas a local level would only need a parliamentarian for maybe some basic training or if they're reviewing their bylaws. At the state and national level, there's so much business being pushed into such a small amount of time that it's very important to have all your ducks in a row, so to speak.
Right. Well, it's funny. The state and national conventions I've attended, those business meetings seem to be a really big deal because a lot of those associations only really get together once a year.
Yeah, and that's a very good point you make there, because if they get something wrong or if they forget a step or if they leave something out, then they're stuck with that all year, and they have to wait till the next annual meeting to make any corrections on it.
Right, right. And that could make for some very unhappy members.
Yes, indeed.
Right, right. Well, and I'll tell you, I like the differentiation. If I could just go back, I like that you were talking about for local organizations, they may not need a parliamentarian for their meetings, but maybe using a parliamentarian for their training needs and for maybe bylaw changes, but really at that state and national level, really having a parliamentary authority there to support the business of what's happening.
Yeah, and that's important at that level because, like I said, there's so many factors coming in. It's not the same group all the time like it would be locally. You might have people from all across the state or even all across the country, or, you know, a lot of these national organizations actually have international membership. So we have different languages, different cultures all coming together, trying to get focused into the business meeting, and it's important that all the steps are lined out and that no time is wasted. That's a huge part of parliamentary procedure.
Stop wasting time, right?
Exactly.
We want to stop wasting time in business meetings so they can go have fun at the convention, right?
Absolutely, because we want to get business done in a business meeting. We don't want to just sit there and drone on and accomplish nothing.
Right, right. Well, and so does the parliamentarian just kind of come in, sit at the meeting, and is gone? Or, I mean, what do they do in order to prepare themselves?
Well, wouldn't that be nice? That is a misconception that some people think that the parliamentarian just flies in, sits down at the meeting, and then waits for a problem to arise. And you have to make sure that that's not what you expect from your parliamentarian, because a lot of the work is done before the meeting in the planning stage, what you might call the review and prep stage. And so that's the crucial stage to get everything in order at that point.
So in the review and prep phase that you're talking about, is that, what is that? Is that them reading their bylaws, or what is the parliamentarian really doing, and who are they supporting?
Exactly. Well, where we start there is we review the governing documents, and then I'll take a look at the minutes of past meetings and the proposed agenda. So we see what's coming up ahead, and then we want to anticipate any problems that are going to arise by talking to the presiding officer and the other board members about, and the executive director perhaps, about those special issues that may be coming up, whether it's a contested election, or maybe it's just an issue that everybody's been fighting about, everybody's talking about, they're getting all these angry emails back and forth, so we know it is going to show up in one form or another at that meeting, so we want to be prepared for it.
Well, and you're really bringing up an important point right now, because if you're a part of an association and you know there's going to be a contentious issue, probably one of the best ways to preserve and retain your membership is to make sure that you run a really great business meeting.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing is, when you bring in a professional parliamentarian, you're bringing in a third party who is neutral. You know, they're not partial one way or the other, and they are focused simply on the rules. So that's what a parliamentarian does. They're an expert on the rules, so they're able to serve everyone evenly.
Well, and I think that's important too, having that third party that's impartial. They're not really driven by the outcome of the vote, and so therefore they really are there just supporting the rules. So let's go a little bit further, because I think that sometimes in organizations, maybe those who've never really used a parliamentarian might have some blind spots as to, and maybe rationalizations around, well, why they don't bring parliamentarians in. Why would you say, you know, what are some of the big blind spots that organizations might have that may keep them from accessing this very important tool?
Well, one thing that we find a lot is members think that since they have an attorney, they don't need a parliamentarian. Like they'll say, well, we don't need that. We already have an attorney who does a good job. But the truth of the matter is there's a very big difference between an attorney and a parliamentarian, because parliamentarians are specifically trained and skilled in parliamentary law, and that's the running of meetings. And where attorneys do not necessarily have any parliamentary training. So like I tell people, just because you have an attorney doesn't mean that he can't be a great parliamentarian, but is he a parliamentarian? And most of the times they're not, because a lot of our organizations have attorneys, and a lot of times it's the attorney who initially contacts us and says, hey, I need an expert to run this meeting. So the attorney and the parliamentarian are completely compatible.
So this is a really great question to ask your attorney. Don't assume that your attorney is an expert in Robert's Rules of Order. If they are, then that's great. But if they're not, then really making sure that you seek the expertise of a parliamentarian could support your state or national convention.
Right, exactly, and that's what we get a lot.
Great. What other blind spots, what other rationales do people make for not hiring a parliamentarian?
I think another one is that it's very similar, and it's that they have an in-house parliamentarian. And what that is, most of the time, is a member of the organization who is either appointed or elected to the position of parliamentarian. And now through the year, they will do a good job at doing the best they can with the rules and advising the board and advising the presiding officers. But when it comes around to convention time, that state or national annual meeting, they bring in an expert to, a lot of our organizations have that type of parliamentarian, in-house parliamentarian. Then they'll bring in an expert to make sure everything goes smoothly and to help train the parliamentarian for what they're doing, but also to back them up inside the meeting itself when things get dicey. So some organizations will say, well, we have an in-house parliamentarian, so we don't need a professional. But we find that that's not true, because that professional support brings experience with it.
Well, no, you actually are a member of NAP, the National Association of Parliamentarians. Is that correct?
Yes.
You're actually you're the editor of the magazine.
Yes, thanks for that plug.
Okay, there you go. That's right. And how long have you been a part of NAP?
Well, thanks for catching me on the spot. It's been a while now. Long enough to, I guess I could say long enough to rise to the ranks of NP editor, so at least I haven't been kicked out yet. I'm not sure the exact time, but...
That's funny. So do you want to maybe give our listeners some guidance with respects to how they can access the National Association of Parliamentarians if they're in need of bringing a parliamentarian? What resources would you say really lie within our organization?
Well, I think the first thing to realize is you always want a qualified parliamentarian. And how do you know you have a qualified parliamentarian? Well, the National Association of Parliamentarians can tell you that, because they give out the designation of PRP, which stands for Professional Registered Parliamentarian. And now that is a very extensive course and training program that you have to go through to achieve that title. It's certainly no small feat. And so you know that someone does have all the credentials when you see you have a PRP. So how do you find PRPs? You can go through the NAP referral service, and they will give you a list of NAPs, a list of parliamentarians who are PRPs in your area. But to go even further, there are also state associations in most states, and they can then put you in touch with someone. Maybe they know a little bit more about your area, what you might need, because I always tell people, make sure you get the right fit, because some parliamentarians,
Yes.
yeah, some specialize in bylaws, some specialize in training, some have different areas of expertise. So you want to make sure you don't just dial up a parliamentarian, order one, and have them show up.
That's right. Well, and I think that's a really great point, right? That there's different parliamentarians who do different things. And Tim, I want to just say thank you for your time, your expertise, and really sharing with us some insights about the very important topic of why it's important for state and national conventions to really think about retaining the services of a professional registered parliamentarian.